Every year so far on this channel, I have made an annual recap video summarizing all the games I recorded and the reception of them by you guys. It is time to do 2024's version, but it's going to be a little different. Rather than going month by month, we are just going to quickly sum up the chronology. We will not be talking about the audience reception because 2024 has been the worst year since this channel first saw success, and around the month of June, everything socially imploded traumatically beyond repair. So, we will just focus on the games themselves and what they bring as Let's Plays. Here we go. Quarter 1 started with Dragon Quest Builders, a happy and bright game that I don't remember much about. I wanted to do this ever since I saw Nintendo Capri Sun series on it, but I only did the first 2 chapters and don't see myself going back to it unless High Demand comes out of left field. As always though, it was a way of starting the year off happy and welcoming. Next up came replays of Mega Man X5 and 6, but they're ROM-hacked versions that make them more playable than their pretty awful original versions. My original Let's Plays of these games were awful too, so I'm happy to have deleted them and finally replaced them with good coverage to add to the Mega Man playlist. After Mega Man, the year saw the continuation of my Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles multiplayer playthrough with Turok and Woody. This series is very close to being done, but remains unfinished for now. I love this game, and would do it all again in a heartbeat. The trouble is finding anyone who cares enough to watch. But I will not let you tip my wagon! Soon, in between all of that, I started Mario RPG on the Switch. This series started incredibly slow and actually took a break for a while, and it remains unfinished. I only semi-enjoyed it, and it is very hard to go back to, but part of me wants to complete it anyway to say it's been done. I just think I'm somehow outgrowing Mario games, which is a foreign concept, and blasphemy to even say. But something about Mario RPG, man. It's just kinda there. Better than Mario RPG was my coverage of Fable 3. I loved that game and could not put it down until I was done. I know a lot of people crap on that one compared to the first 2 Fable games, but I really enjoyed the real estate aspect and the action-style combat. I think it was one of my better series in the early part of the year. After Fable came Mass Effect, a game I was shown while I was in California in January. I loved this game and the focus on choices made, and it was definitely what I needed to be playing at the time. Perhaps one day in the future I'll revisit it and make different choices, or I'll begin the sequels and continue from my original choices. But I don't think the demand is there to warrant it. Last in quarter 1 came my favorite game to just unwind to and forget everything, The Long Dark. This time the series was all about survival mode instead of the story mode Let's Play I did years prior. There's not much to say other than it was enjoyable until it seemed like we hit a stale wall several hours into it and people just stopped watching. And well, I stopped playing. Quarter 2 saw the start of Pokemon Soul Silver, a series I really enjoyed because I hacked in a Houndour, or Houndour, whatever the heck that thing's called, to use as my starter alongside Totodile. It was great to revisit this one, as it is one of the only Pokemon games I've played besides the original. Coinciding with Soul Silver was Let's Go Pikachu on the Switch. The game started off like a nostalgic punch to the face, but then it dwindled as the episodes went on, leading me to never finish it. Even more so than Mario, I think games like this have made me outgrow Pokemon. I really have no interest in where the series goes from here. After Pokemon, I did a singular Let's Play of Sam & Max Hit the Road for the PC. This is a classic from my childhood right alongside Day of the Tentacle, though not quite as good as that game. Still, it was a blast to revisit the silly dog and rabbit adventure. Fallout New Vegas started up after that, which was fun to play for the first time. From my understanding, it is one of the better Fallout games, and I did quite enjoy it, especially the Elvis impersonator part. I'm glad I finally took the time to learn the mechanics and give it a try. After Fallout, I started Plants vs. Zombies, a perfect game for just sitting back and talking about virtually anything. I thought it fit my commentary style. But I quickly got bored, and this is when socially everything went absolutely wrong beyond repair. It is nothing but a bad memory tied to trauma that will never be finished as a result. Quarter 3 was the rebuilding quarter. I literally recorded everything for the rest of 2024 in this part of the year. I destroyed my Patreon and introduced YouTube memberships instead, a cheaper option with a better reward. Inspired by the hope of this story, I covered The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Return of the King, two fantastic games based on my favorite movie trilogy. I believe getting re-addicted to the story of The One Ring is what pulled me out of a very dark time. It did not erase any of the social trauma from June, but it was hope enough just to cope. X-Men Legends followed Lord of the Rings. I briefly played this game with my childhood friends when it was new, but I never really sat down with it myself and saw what it had to offer. It is one of the best X-Men video games ever created, and I had so much fun with it. I even briefly started up a second playthrough when it was all done to try out different characters. I also wrote a review of the game and compared it to the sequel, so I am very happy with the series. I also immediately started recording the sequel, but that is slated for a later release. Hey! Somewhere in there was a one-off of 1080 Avalanche. Not much to say about that, but it's always cool to remember the game. After that, Rayman Arena filled the void for a bit. This game was recorded before X-Men Legends, but I kept moving its release date around as I saw it as a filler game. It's just lighthearted fun to pass the time, but it was very fun to revisit after all these years. Finally, we come to probably the greatest Let's Play of the year, Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. Recorded on a whim way after some of the other games we're about to talk about, this one shaped out to be as good as my Harvest Moon 64 and Stardew Valley LPs. I recorded 3 of the 6 years the story covers, but it is a very long game, so the remaining half will have to come in the future, possibly dependent on reception. I think casual games like this are my future, if any exists. The final quarter of the year saw everything I recorded in July and August. First up was Baldur's Gate: Dark Alliance. This game was very enjoyable to revisit after all these years. It may have been more fun as a co-op series, but perhaps I can do that in the future sometime. Dungeon crawlers can only be so exciting, I suppose, but this one was good. At least the opening and ending were well done, as far as the game's fun factor goes. November I deemed as 007 month, since most of the recent Bond films released in either October or November. I covered GoldenEye Wii, also known as GoldenEye Reloaded, which was interesting to go back to after all these years. Then, after much toil and trouble, I got my paws on 007 Bloodstone for the PlayStation 3 and recorded that, a game I have long desired to play. It did not disappoint at all, and I hope to replay it again soon. Finally, I ended the month with 007 Everything or Nothing on the GameCube, one of the first cinematic Bond games and a truly great experience. I laughed quite a bit at the corny lines and banter from Q throughout the series. Happy! December is when I decided to release X-Men Legends 2, the fan-favorite sequel to the original game. I recorded this long before December, but I felt it necessary to space it out. It was a great game, in some aspects better than the original, and in other ways not as good. But I played as a different group of X-Men and enjoyed every moment as I ingested what I missed out on as a teen. Now, somewhere in the mix of that stuff was a co-op playthrough of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2003 video game as Raph and Mikey. Again, it was interesting to revisit this one, as it was far shorter than either of us remembered. The 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon is one of the best, so this game is just kinda neat. Also in the mix somewhere, or maybe somewhere in 2025, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan. This one I went into happily, but the game is pretty mediocre, so it ended up being filler content. As such, I will endlessly move around its release date until it feels right. Finally, Tales of the Shire is due to release this year sometime. As soon as it does, I will be covering it, and it may require shifting things around in the late quarter. It looks like the perfect casual experience to, at best, rebuild and attract new faces, and at worst, have fun. And that was 2024. It remains to be seen if there is a 2025 for the channel, or if I will be too busy juggling 3 jobs to get all my income back that I lost, which is kind of the plan. So all that's left to say is thank you for tuning in and sticking around, and I will see you whenever I next appear.